This is lab number 4 and homework number 4. I'm going to talk to you about the second problem, which is the chapter 5, number 6. Okay, number 6. In number 6, it talks to you about basically is for you to read in some numbers. Write a program that reads in a set of integers and find and print the sum of the odd and even with this thing. Alright, so let me help with that. Give you some pointers with this thing. So if you look at this, I'm just going to do this on Notepad so it'll be fast and easy so I don't have to set this thing up with it. I want you to look at, just if you can go ahead and put in your skeleton in this thing. Okay, of course your first name and all your goody stuff on here, right? And here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go in and put in my skeleton in this thing right now. I'm going to pause for a second. I don't want to take any more minutes with this thing. Then we continue on number 6. This is number 6 on your page 330 is part of your lab with it. You're asked to read in an integer. This is how I did it. Doesn't mean that necessarily it's the best way of doing it, but when somebody gives you like one sentence in line number 6 to write, you don't have much to go on by with it. What I've done is I've went in, I declare a constant, an n, outside of the int main. The size of n 20 and on 20 with this thing. And then I declare some variables with this thing. I need to go in and declare some counter variables, my loop variables, my number variables with this thing, with it. And then I would actually go in and initialize this. I'll tell you why I initialize the sum of the even numbers and the odd numbers with this thing. Now this is very important. I'm not going to give you this code. I'm just going to help you walk you through this thing. I need to prompt the user to actually to read in the numbers. So you're asking the user to do maybe like a cout. Please enter some numbers with this thing, with it. So you prompt the user to enter some numbers in this thing, right? And some 20 numbers in this case because I gave it 20, right? So please enter 20, n, extractor. I have to do this as an output with it. Number of integers with it. It's up to you, whatever you want to call this thing. Then I have to read in this integers with it. I need to read it in with this. So this is the part where you display the information to the screen with this thing. All right. So you have to display this information to the screen to let the user know what they typed in. When you read in the number, I'm going to start the counter with 1. I want to end the counter with 20 of this thing. So counter is now less than or equal to 20. Counter increment with this thing. So I'm going to read in the number. It starts with reading in the number with this thing. And then when I output the number, here's my number that telling the user to output, and it has a space in between it. Okay. This next part's very important. This is where your structure goes in here. How do you determine, the question is how do you determine if a number is odd or even? If you recall in your book, that talks about in chapter 2 there's a mod function which is what represented by your percent, okay, in this. So what does this mean by percent mod? So if for instance if I did something such as what is 172 mod 10 equal what? Well, in other words, what is the remainder? If I took 172 divided by 10, I should have a remainder of what? 2. Correct? So what is the remainder if I did 17 mod 10? The remainder should be 7, right? So what is the remainder if I have something that, if I ask, well, what is the remainder if I have 4 mod 2? Well, the remainder should be 0. Correct? If I know the remainder is 0, then I know that this number is an even number. Does that make sense? That's how I actually know that. Okay. Now, knowing what I just told you, all right. So if this number, if I mod it with 2, and it evaluates to 0, okay. So what if I wrote a structure based on what I just told you? If I wrote a structure if whatever the number may be that I read in this case. Let's go ahead and do this thing. So let's say if I did the structure in this case, how I read in this number right here. Here's my for loop, right? I read this thing in. Now it's becoming numbered. The number is number here, and it's outputting out with the string with this thing. Now I need to write inside of this thing. I'm going to start with an if statement, nest in an if statement. If number, which is this number on the top that I just did, if that's mod by 2, if it's equal, very important. I want to explain this to you, what it means equal with this. This is an evaluation of, does it equal to 0? You cannot do this. If you did this, you are assigning, meaning you are assigning 0 to equal to this part, which this will be a logic error with this thing. So make sure you have equal in this thing, okay, which does it evaluate equal to 0. If it's true, if this is true, then I want it to do something. If it's false, I want it to do an else in this case. So I have the fork in the road is, here's the sum, okay, I want it to be a sum of the evens. So if it's evens, what? So this is why I put sum of the even initialized to 0. This is very important, is because the reason why anytime when you are using sum of the even equal that, and you did, if you add it to number in this case, so what does this mean? You're updating all the even sum. Okay, so if I did this, okay, so what is even here? Sum of the even, 0, right? Because I initialized it as 0. It adds in the number here. It gives me the new even numbers with this thing. Okay, I don't need to finish the odd, do I? So you could figure out the odd with it. But the key concept here, I want to, the fork in the road, I want to explain this problem is if you take a number, mod it with 2, and if it equals to 0, meaning evaluates to 0, both sides 0 here, if it's true, then you do this. Okay, that's the key thing in this problem I want to point out with this thing. And whenever you're done with this thing, of course you got to do your odd up down here. Okay, so let me tighten up this code a little bit more. You're going to put another blank line in this thing, so it just makes it a little bit more. Just do a cout in line with this thing, and you got to output the sum of the even, sum of the odd in this thing. So tell me, what is this variable? Sum of the even, cout, even, that goes here. Sum of all the even numbers, cout, all the odd numbers, and your else statements with this thing. I'm not going to finish this thing. I'd like for you to finish it. Okay? Alright, good luck.